Alrighty, Hacksters, it is my favorite time of the week, and today we're a Hackster chat with John Olhoft of LulzBot. Good morning, John. What's up?
Good morning. It's going pretty good up here in Fargo, North Dakota. Hasn't gotten cold yet for the year, so that's good.
Oh, that's great. Hopefully not. It's July. Oh
Yeah,
man.
right.
So North Dakota, very big change from Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of the obvious elephant in the room. What's the story with LulzBot? What have you been up to for the last year and a half? What's been going on?
Yeah, so October 2019, Aleph Objects closed its doors. A group of 3 of us here in Fargo were already familiar with the LulzBot printers and used them in our business. So we moved pretty quickly and acquired all the assets of Aleph Objects. And by November, we were starting to do stuff again. January 2020, we packed up all the brand on 28 semis and moved it to Fargo. Yeah, quite a task, but we've got 60,000 square feet here, and we're 75 people strong. So there's been a good amount of growth, and being able to fulfill our orders has been a top priority, and that's been going really well.
Awesome. So even despite everything that's going on, it seems like you've managed to keep things kind of holding together.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks to 3D printing. I mean, this past year, you're looking at COVID, you're looking at supply chain shortages and all sorts of things like that. But something that's really impervious to those changes are 3D printed pieces. Even the Taz SideKick, our newest printer, like you see behind me, 50% of the bill of materials is actually 3D printed on these machines. So as long as we're able to get our raw resin in, we can make machines for the most part, which is really, really good in a time like COVID.
Interesting. You said resin. Now, I mostly know LulzBot as filament printing, FDM printers. So tell us about your manufacturing process.
Yeah, so when I say resin, I guess I mainly mean the parent plastic that gets extruded into filament. So as long as we have filament, we can make parts. Our manufacturing process today, we're using pretty close to 300 printers, the majority of which are Mini 2s in our farm. But for some of our larger pieces, we're using the Taz Workhorse, heavily modified Taz 6s for specific applications, and a Taz Pro when we need dual color stuff, though you can also do dual material if you're doing flexibles and hard plastics and stuff with the Taz Pro.
Right.
Which is pretty cool.
So you're printing other printers, and you're also printing other things. What other kinds of things are you printing?
Yeah. Well, personally, I like to print all sorts of things. I do stuff with Jeeps. I'm kind of a maker myself. So whether it's doing alignment jigs or fixturing, it seems to be something that I find myself fabbing up pretty regularly. Otherwise, I've got kind of some just cool random stuff. We just we did a time lapse on a giant Lego 350% size Lego kit, which was a lot of fun, but like multiple months of printing between odd hours.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. We got stuff with large layer lines and whatnot too. Something like this printing in 4 hours is pretty good if you're familiar with that process. But I think it's largely thanks to our modular toolhead system, where you're able to take any of the LulzBot chassis and switch toolheads depending on your application. So like a lot of our industrial clients, if you're doing welding jigs, or if you're doing check sockets for prosthesis, you might want to print stuff really fast that still matches the shape. And you're going to use a larger nozzle set, maybe some specialized gearing to do so. Or you go the other way with it. You might say you like printing minis, mini figurines. Our printers will go down to 50 micron or 0.05 millimeter layer height, super fine. At that point, it's comparable to SLA printing. There's still applications that are good for both, but it's pretty cool to see a lot of those pieces too.
So what you just said about being able to reconfigure the printer. So first up, you can do it like if you already have a printer, you can switch out parts. But also, like with this new SideKick printer that you have, you were telling me about this configuration engine that you can use to really create sort of your own printer. Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we wanted to make it a lot more interactive. You know, we talk about desktop 3D printers, and we saw something similar with computers where there suddenly became a time where you could have a personal computer. Well, the idea that you would have a personal desktop printer and experience more of a ordering process like you would with a Dell computer or whatnot, and actually pick the componentry that goes into the machine is what you see here. So picking your color, we did a couple colors to start with, either the black or the green, and then you've got your build volume if you wanted the smaller one or the larger one, and then you kind of have an option to then say, okay, I picked the color, I picked the size, I don't want to think about it anymore, I don't know what these others are. So we give that LulzBot recommended, where these are all awesome options if you just want to get this and get printing. But if you do still want to do that full configuration, we let you get under the hood a little bit and pick things that are actually catered to why you want to buy that printer, what you're going to use that printer for. Yeah,
and this kind of really meshes well with your idea of, well, first, okay, before we move on, I love this 3D rotation thing. I assumed like you'd have to go into another viewer, but you just drag it around. It's so cool. Okay, but yeah, it really kind of fits in with your open source ethos.
Yes.
And yeah, I remember back when it was under Aleph, I remember visiting the factory in Colorado, and they said that even their computers were all running Linux because that was their dedication to open source. What's your philosophy now?
Yeah, so we're a little bit more hybrid now. We've opened up our ability to use other software platforms, basically so that people with those talent sets and with good skills, they can still get their job done. For example, like a Photoshop, as opposed to GIMP. We're now able to use Photoshops and stuff. But when it comes to the product itself, we've stayed heavily open source. The best examples of that would be our GitLab page. So the entire SideKick, go on there, download your either your CAD files or your STLs. Let's say I wanted to modify my printed parts so that I can put cameras on it, or I can add a higher level of automation to it. That GitLab page, it's all there. Any of our printers, it's open source. That's what it's about. Pull, push, change, modify, or even just print replacement parts, depending on what you're doing. Change out your colors if you feel the need. So very, very cool in that sense. Another great open source resource we have for people is our OHI, which is Open Hardware Assembly Instructions. Again, it's a page that's not behind a password wall or anything, but it covers in detail how to build every single one of our machines. So if you were to grab a Taz Workhorse or Taz Pro or Mini 2 from this page, we could actually see step by step how each subassembly is built, what parts are used, what tools you're going to need. And this is the exact same instructions that we use here at the factory to build things, and a very valuable resource to people in the LulzBot ecosystem, essentially allowing you to keep a machine running perpetually. So it's very good.
I love this. And yeah, when I first got, so in the office at Hackster, we actually have a LulzBot Taz 6, and we've printed all kinds of stuff. Archimedes up there was made on a Taz 6. I remember my filament feeder was broken, so I babysat it until like 5 a.m. It's this like little rubber ducky thing that I made to like tell myself my problems and stuff. And it works really great. And when we first got it, someone was like, yeah, you should, the first thing you should print should be like a set of replacement pieces and parts. And actually, I didn't do that, and it hasn't broken. Nothing is broken yet, which is great. We've been using it for years. But it's so cool that if I wanted to, this really fits in with the sort of right to repair stuff, the ethos of being able to, really, own something, in that you have a machine, you can, and that means that you can take it apart, you can put it back together, you can fix it, you can modify it, etc. I love it. We'll put these links in the description, of course, everyone. This is so cool. I didn't know these existed.
Yeah, running Marlin software too. So, sorry, firmware. So as far as what the machine's brain is actually thinking as well, you can reprogram it to do what you need it to do. With each of the G code scripts that you might run, you can have that machine know what it's supposed to do. So very, very cool.
That's so awesome. Obviously, uh, bringing the company around under new ownership and like moving it across states and stuff comes with a lot of challenges. So, what was your first sort of major challenge, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I think probably the first major challenge is just having the community be aware of what's going on. It's a challenge that I think was ongoing for some time. Now that COVID's a little more not as prevalent as it has been this past year, we've had the chance to go to some in-person events like the Midwest Rap Festival and
Oh
actually get out there and meet people again and show them, hey, this is us. We're a small company in the U.S. We're not a corporate conglomeration monster or something. It's
yeah.
a bunch of really passionate people building a printer that we care about and taking care of you if you have any issues or stuff. I mean, we've got 4 full-time support staff. If you have any questions, you
Oh
need
wow.
parts, all of our machines come with factory warranties. You can even extend that warranty up to an additional 3 years. So we're very, very confident in our products' reliability, repeatability, and performance, which are kind of cornerstone factors to every LulzBot machine.
As a former support tech, I just think the fact that you have like 75 employees and 4 of them are support team is like amazing. It's like, oh, somebody gets it.
Yep.
um, yeah, and I saw that maybe a lot of those people had already been on a team together, and you sort of brought them all in. Can you tell us about how it was like building that team?
Yeah, there was a few different groups that we had. For example, Fargo 3D printer repair was one of the businesses under our umbrella. So with probably 6 or so people already employed there at doing stuff in 3D printing in Fargo, we were able to bring in that team so we could hit the ground running. We had the whole team at Protosthetics, another company that's housed here, making 3D printed prosthesis and orthotics.
Wow.
So in terms of the Fargo knowledge base, we had these companies in town that were already using 3D printing. And I think it would have been very difficult without those people and their skill sets that made it so that when we acquired the assets from Aleph, it wasn't looking at something we had no idea what we were doing. We were already very, very familiar with
Yeah.
a lot of different 3D printers, and the LulzBots were among our favorites already. So this has been fun to expand upon these machines and improve them.
That's super cool. I wasn't aware. So Fargo 3D printing repair, small tangent.
Mhm.
Do people like ship them 3D printers from all over the country, or is it mostly a local thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So they'll reach out, get it set up with a ticket and stuff, send their printer in. You'll see some larger entities do this, maybe retailers that have RMA stock that they need to have refurbished and whatnot.
Ah.
Occasionally you'll see in stores either a refurbished or a gone through machine, or you'll be shopping online and you'll see a used printer. That's just one avenue for how they could have been repaired. Some of these entities do it in-house as well. But yeah, Fargo in and of itself is pretty unique. We've got a lot of different 3D printing things going on. There is Fame 3D, which is
Yeah.
our company, Fargo Additive Manufacturing Equipment 3D, which by and large is LulzBot. LulzBot is our main brand.
Mhm.
But we also have Fargo 3D Printer Repair and Protosthetics. And all of that is in one building here. Now you also have another business, completely different business, completely different set of owners, which is Fargo 3D Printing. And Fargo 3D Printing is co-located with 3D Fuel, a filament manufacturer.
Mm.
So there's definitely a growing 3D printing scene here in Fargo, and it's been fun to be a part of that, more so from the beginning. In fact, when I was still in my undergrad, I actually worked at Fargo 3D printing, working on printers, fixing on printers and stuff, and that's
cool.
kind of where I cut my teeth.
Wow. Now, you mentioned earlier, you just were mentioning that there's a filament company around there. And earlier you mentioned that you get in the resin, and I was like, what? I thought you were filament. So do you make your own filament? You do sell a lot of different types in the store. You can like go to the filament page and find out like protopasta, polymaker, color fab, etc. Who makes the distinctive LulzBot color one? Like, what do you use in yours, and do you make it yourself?
Many different companies have made LulzBot green as a color. IC3D, ChromaStrand, they've done ABS variants. We've had both Polymaker, 3D Fuel, Protopasta. They've all done a LulzBot green in some of the PLAs and PETGs. But we've refrained from getting into filament manufacturing. We think our time is better focused on making the machines, making the better machines, and leaving the production of the materials to companies that have been in it for some time now. So it's fun to have all these partners. It's cool to see what they're coming up with for new materials. That's a huge area of growth when it comes to 3D printing. Any material under 300 degrees C will print just fine on your LulzBot. For reference, most like PLAs printed around 210 degrees C. So you can get very, very hot and into engineering grade plastics with our machines without issue.
Cool.
Kind of so.
Ooh, pastels, wow.
Yeah, pastels and Polyterra is new, and it's
copper.
I think there's like 430 some different SKUs of filament that are on our website, and we do warehouse all of that here at Fargo. Just to make it quick, you order something, we've got units ready to ship, we've got filament ready to ship, so you can basically one-stop shop. Check out our website, fill your cart, check out, and get your stuff right away.
And it's coming from the U.S., so if you're based in the U.S., then you don't have to worry about tariffs or customs or like all that jazz, or like long shipping times.
Yeah.
So as an enthusiast yourself, what are your favorite types of filament to use for different applications? You're doing car stuff, you're doing some other hobby stuff. Yeah, what are your go-tos?
I definitely cater it to the application. You've got flexibles like Ninja Flex that seem to really hold up and do well in various applications, whether you're spacing, gapping, crushing something. And it works really
crushing?
Well, let's say I need to get something to fit, and I've got this much space, but I put a Ninja Flex pad in between. I can squish it, and it's not gonna come apart. Kind of like a lock washer. You can use it for some interesting applications.
There's so much you could do with that.
Totally. Gaskets, you name it.
You're saying painting?
Yeah, painting's a big one too. So let's say you do a lot of powder coating, and you had to tape off the same part on the same thing day after day. At that point, it makes sense to just print a flexible or TPU plug, and you pop it in, powder coat it, pop that masking plug out, pop it into the next piece, and do that over and over. You don't have to waste time taping off things that always get masked. You could just print the manufacturing aids to improve that process.
And it'd be more consistent as well. You get really nice results. Oh, that's brilliant. So for manufacturing other things, I love it. 3D. This is what 3D printers are just amazing at. It's so good. On the tools side, again, but this time on the business side, what are the sort of tools that you use to keep your business running and help make it sort of, there's a lot that you're juggling. How do you make it work?
So our main ERP system's Odoo, which has been really nice. It's got a good backbone with a lot of different apps. So in terms of everything from sales and inventory to order fulfillment, having that all be in a cohesive system that talks to itself rather than having siloed systems. We've seen pretty good results there. Like any software, there's still a good amount of training that you have to go through with people so they know how the process works. But once you get through that and you got things that people are used to, that's one of the good tools that we've used. Being willing to get out and do workshops and teach and talk to schools and things like that, I think has been another tool that has helped us in the past 2 months since we've been able to get out more. I like if you've got a high school group or something that wants to tour, being able to actually show them 3D printing, show them water soluble filaments, show them flexible filaments, magnetic filaments,
Whoa.
all these different things, and just blow their mind with it. They usually walk away pretty excited about how to 3D print and what they can do next.
Yeah, I see those things and they're still magic to me. And those ones that are like, oh, you can print this with copper in it, and then you can shine it up and get a patina, or like get verdigris on it if you like spray it with vinegar or something.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep.
All these things. Oh, it's incredible. It's so cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are you printing that back there behind you?
Let's see. We've got, it looks like a small fox, and the other one, I don't know what the other one is. So I started that one, but I didn't start that one. So, but I'm sure it's something cool.
Nice. Speaking of going out into the community and stuff, what are you looking for from the community right now? How can people get involved if they're really excited?
Well, right now, if you're really excited about 3D printing or LulzBot in general, it's pretty easy to follow us on social. You'll see that we like to share a lot. We also have our Hackster.io page. So if you want to do projects, you can definitely do that project. You can say, this was my tool. I used a TAS workhorse, and it's part of how I made this thing for my Raspberry Pi. So there's a lot of good ways to get involved like that. We do occasional giveaways. We'll poll the community with different questions, see what they want to see. We've got a lot of very active Facebook groups. We have the forum.lulzbot.com. That is a great resource when it comes to a lot of questions that people are having. You can usually find topics in there to help people out. There we go.
Got all kinds of stuff on here.
So,
lots of community engagement. That's such a good sign. All this stuff is from like the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
I love it. You clearly have a ton of people who are really engaged here, and I feel like that's such a great indication for a company. We've got on Hackster, of course. Oh yeah, this Pipe EFS thing that's behind me is also made on a TAS 6. We got it. I don't know if you can see it there. And then Archimedes, of course. I gotta add him to that project. But yeah, you can add LulzBot, whatever your LulzBot printer is, as a tool on your Hackster project, and then you'll be able to share it on there and stuff, and then go share it on the forums. So cool.
Very, very cool.
Let's see. So for the future, what is your sort of grand vision? Do you have one for the company?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need to get more people 3D printing. I mean, this is a technology that has changed the game in a lot of different ways. Anytime you have various Fortune 500 companies, as well as people doing their small business where it's just them on Etsy, being able to use a technology side by side, or even level a playing field to an extent, you've got something that's very disruptive. Making that process easier, making that process open, making that process something that people want to be a part of is a large part of our vision for the company, as well as accessible. When it comes to like our LulzBot TAS sidekicks, this is the most affordable printer we've ever released as the LulzBot brand. Kind of lowering that barrier to entry so that you can get a machine, you can get going, and enjoy printing right away. It's not a lot of messing around. Believe it or not, these machines actually fold up entirely into themselves. So it's pretty cool. The screen, the control box, everything folds within that frame.
Wow.
And then your y-axis actually hooks up on the inside.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Auto bed leveling and stuff. So when you get where you're going and you set it up, you don't have to mess around with a piece of paper trying to figure out how to get the perfect first layer. The printer just does that.
That's lovely.
So, but largely that vision is getting 3D printing to more people, making it more accessible, showing them how they could use it. In the past, our mantra was make everything. And though that still is very much so true, I think catering that message a little bit more and making it interactive, where what do you do? what do you want to make? Let me
Yeah.
help you figure out how to best do that. And we do that with things like our various tool heads, with our build surfaces, and even how we slice something depending on what materials they want to use. So yeah, it becomes a little more palpable then. If you say I'm in the photography business and I wish that I had a bunch of mounts for my cameras or my lights or stuff, well, let's look at that. That's what your printer is primarily going to be doing. How do we cater to that, as opposed to here's a printer, go make everything.
Yeah, it can be a bit overwhelming for people,
Yes.
I think, when they're getting started.
Yes.
They're like, what do you mean I can make anything?
But you could. So
You totally could, but it also gives
yeah,
people a place to start.
right.
Yeah, I love, and of course you could always just start by printing more parts for your printer. But that's a trap. That is a trap. There's the whole thing of where like you have a printer and it becomes your hobby. Not that that's the worst thing in the world. For
Yep.
you, it became a business, which is amazing.
True. But
Tell us about this. Oh, sorry, what?
I was going to say that's kind of the split. We don't build a kit printer. All of our printers are ready to go out of the box. So it's
Yes.
if you don't want the printer to be the hobby, if you want the thing that you want to print, whether it's your business, whether it's your hobby, whatever, you can focus on what you want to print. You don't have to worry that you're going to be spending days and days building and chopping the printer to get it to work.
And like you said, you can get either the full configuration or like the recommended model. This really is, like you were saying, it's like the personal computer model of a 3D printer where you can get it all sort of a base model, or you can get like you can get as fiddly as you want with it. There's different kinds of base plates that you can get and stuff. This magnetic base plate looks really cool.
Oh yeah.
Is that one of those ones where you can pick it up and then like flex it off and the piece just pops off?
Yep. Highly recommend it.
I gotta get one of those.
It.
I have to. Yeah, that's the bane of my existence. Although it's really fun, but like you see people like doing the flexing the plate and it goes and then like suddenly you have it's magic. So good.
Highly recommend it for TAS 6, as well as some of the new tool heads. So even like our M175 is a really good option for the TAS 6. It lets you go into the world of 175 filaments, which there seems to be more and more colors, more and more varieties that manufacturers are making. But the biggest difference is now you've got true dual extrusion or dual drive extrusion. So you've got gears on both sides of your filament. It won't chew out a piece of the filament and then just jam. This will actually push through that. And then the Spice Engineering hot end does a fantastic job of holding reliable temperature. But yeah, for a TAS 6, you could get that tool head, an adapter plate for the 5.6, and you're off to the races and making really cool stuff with your 6.
Wonderful. And that is the one we have. You know what you're talking about. Excellent. So more about you as an individual. I did a little digging, and you have a degree in agricultural and biosystems engineering. Is there any crossover between that and what you're doing now? Are there things you learned then, or like things that you're learning now with 3D printers where you're like, oh, agricultural applications or something, or biosystems?
Yeah, there's way more overlap than people would think at first glance. So I worked for a company called Cargill, which then later merged its particle reduction or milling divisions with ConAgra and CHS. So I made flour. If you're eating a Domino's pizza or Goldfish crackers, that's a process that you're well familiar with. But in that industry, maybe 50, 60 years ago, you would run a production plant with a lot of people, and you had to have somebody opening valves and turning knobs and stuff all over the plant. But one of the things that we've seen in more recent times is just a sheer amount of automation. So you have large PLC cabinets, programmable logic control, and then you've got temp sensors, position sensors, all these different switches, industrial motors, industrial ladder logic, controlling maybe an 8-story plant with 5 or 6 people from a control room. And it starts to become a much more pleasant environment to work in. It's not quite so arduous or backbreaking. And you'll see this level of automation all the way through generally your packaging process. So that's where it starts to overlap with 3D printing a little bit, because these little guys are robots, and
Yeah.
they run G code and position and turning stuff on or off and sensors and all the same type of stuff you'd find on a large scale at a food processing facility. So more overlap than you'd think on the surface, and it's been kind of fun to utilize some of that knowledge as well.
Here's a question. They're very reconfigurable. They're very hackable. What's your favorite community hack that you've seen of someone like modifying one of your printers to do something unexpected?
So, to do something unexpected.
Yeah.
Unexpected would probably be doing brass inserts. So rather than a tool head, they essentially machined out a stamper, and they would take their printed part with the holes all ready to receive their brass inserts, and they'd use that, they'd heat it up, and then they would press in their inserts, and then they could swap the part and do that over and over again, using essentially the motion system on their TAS to perform a function.
Wow, interesting. So basically replacing a soldering iron with the hot end of the 3D printer to do heat set inserts. That's so interesting. It makes sense too, because if you're doing like a bajillion of them, then you can automate that too. Wow, cool. Right. What about something expected?
Something expected, I would go with like linear rail mods. So we have stainless steel rods with IGUS self-lubricating bearings. That's how we build our machines today, the exception being the SideKick. The SideKick is running on Delrin V wheels. All of our machines are belted. We don't do any lead screws. The TAS SideKick is the last of the lead screw driven machines. But the community mod that's out there is, instead of these rods, what they go to is linear rails, and it's pretty cool. I mean, for the masses, it doesn't make as much sense, because now you have to rely on people to actually lubricate and take care of those linear rails properly. But if you're somebody that's into it, or you're relying on your machine as a machine, and you're doing regular maintenance and stuff to ensure it does a good job, that linear rail mod is something that caught my eye, at least.
Awesome. Yeah. Are there any... I feel like we're on track to wrap up soon. I would love to ask you if there's any good surprises that stick out for you in just the whole process of like becoming the people who are LulzBot and building this company up from bringing all these groups together, or to do with the machines themselves. Anything that sticks out for you as a good surprise?
Yeah, just the sheer amount of good. There are people doing so many amazing things with 3D printers, and we get a chance to interact with them on a regular basis, whether that's modified toddler carts for kids with disabilities. I think Sunshine Scooters is maybe one. I don't know if they have a website or not, but they're using their TASs to make things that are specific to the individual. And even when you look at people in general, we're very organic shaped. So 3D printing lends itself to make those geometries much easier than traditional manufacturing. You'll see incredible works done in cosplay, or you'll see our machines being used to develop the props for movies. It's you never know. It's all over the board, or that could be there you go. Yep, those parts are actually printed on TAS printers. So that is so cool. That's some of the really fun stuff to come across that our machines are being used for, and really brightens your day.
Wow, look at these smiles. Wow. Oh, that's so cool.
Absolutely.
And of course, yeah, for building custom prosthetics and for cosplay and stuff, it's just absolutely what 3D printing excels at. Is there anything you'd like to toss in there before we wrap up? And we'll throw in, all the social links and stuff. So
sure. Well, I mean, that's a good one right there. Definitely follow the social channels. We do a lot of communicating that way. So if you're a current LulzBot user or whatnot, and you may be staring at your inbox of your email waiting. Sometimes you can get information a little bit faster from our socials. We post just about every day, sometimes multiple times a day. You think, yeah, you'll even see that we shared the link for this already.
Yeah.
There's people out there excited about their new TAS sidekicks and doing reviews of how well they're liking them. We'll have various people that are really good with our printers and they get them tuned in.
Ooh, lots of
Yeah,
pretty inspiration too.
absolutely.
Nice.
Great layer lines and stuff. You'll even see different recognizable YouTube personalities like James Bruton,
Oh
the
yeah.
Hacksmith, Joel Telling,
Mm-hmm.
do videos about our printers or use our printers for what they make. James Bruton is an excellent one. Most of his projects are open source and almost 100% 3D printed. So definitely check out his page. He's about this close to 1 million subscribers right now.
Whoa!
So I know he's very excited about that. But he's using our printers for all sorts of amazing open source designs with what he's doing there. So it's yeah, I guess kind of my call to actions: join our community, see what we're up to, see what we're talking about, and how we're taking on the world's problems with this disruptive force that is affordable 3D printing. You know, you can still
Yeah.
spend like $50,000 on a machine and $350 per spool of filament, depending on the brand. But when it comes to our printers, now you're talking something that is a little bit closer to $1,000 US, $20 to $30 for a spool of plastic, and you can really upset things in industries and make.
I love that recently there was a story about someone found a product in like a supermarket that was clearly 3D printed and it was some kind of a special clippy thing. I forget what. But there was a really cool dialogue about it, how it's like, oh yeah, this is the first time we've seen something that's like packaged up. And it's not like they 3D printed the prototypes and then made a mold and like got it manufactured and stuff. They actually just are one-off 3D printing each piece that goes into, and it's in broad distribution with like packaging and everything. And I love that it really feels like an inflection point for people where it's like, yes, it's okay to like just sell something that's 3D printed as an object in itself. And that's the manufacturing process. It's amazing.
Absolutely. So on that side, I'd say definitely look at your materials. So
Oh yeah.
I think like even students, as they get going and they start printing with PLA, as the general public interacts with 3D printed objects, they think of PLA, which is honestly pretty brittle and melts in the sunlight when it comes down to it or starts to get bendy. But there are some serious engineering grade materials out there. I mean, ABS is especially, almost everything under the hood of a car is going to be an ABS plastic. So that tells you as far as lasting a long time or taking a lot of heat, there are materials for those applications where you can build hand tools. You can do things that are meant to be really tough, or even our printers itself. You know, on the mainline printers, your Mini 2, Workhorse, and Pro, you're looking at ABS parts. And on our new TAS SideKick, you're looking at PETG used in that construction. So it's there's some good stuff.
Yeah. And of course, in case people missed it before, we have the GitLab page where you can get not only information about just all the information basically, but also stuff for the Marlin firmware that's on the 3D printers. You can make your own firmware for it if you want to tweak it.
Yep.
And the OHI open hardware assembly instructions. I'm going to be digging through this. Very
There
excited.
you go. Perfect.
And of course, the Hackster community. Thank you so much, John. This has been a pleasure. And I'm going to go. We didn't quite push James over the 1 million mark. 999K. But everyone go check that out and go follow LulzBot for more information on awesome open source 3D printers. Thank you so much, John. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you soon.
You betcha. Thank you.
Cheers. Hopefully more in person soon. Yeah.